everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Targeting AI podcast from Tech Target Editorial. Today, our guest is Andrea Gagliano, Head of Data Science AI ML at Getty Images. She has been with Getty Images for more than 6 years, starting as a data scientist. She has a master's degree in information management and systems with a focus on machine learning and creativity from UC Berkeley School of Information. Andrea has also worked as a UX designer. Thanks for being with us today, Andrea.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
How'd you get into the field of AI and machine learning? I know you studied it in college, in grad school and college, but you also have your own creative projects. So how did you first integrate AI with photography and other creative work? And how do those projects relate, if they do relate, to your work at Getty?
I started in undergrad studying mathematics, pure mathematics. And then in grad school, I was in grad school around 2015, which is right around when uh, neural networks started becoming more popular again, and some of the current forms of deep learning became more popular. And I think the first kind of art and technology project that I saw was Google's Deep Dream at the time, which got me really excited about this space. And I had this background in math, but I also was beginning to become more creative myself. I was not very creative when I was a kid, but in adulthood have gotten into writing poems and doing oil paintings and drawing and charcoal and just really leaning into more of my artistic side. So in grad school, I took a natural language processing class, which was really the first class where I started to be more hands-on with these machine learning models. And because it was a NLP class, I was really interested in how do I use these models to generate poetry. And so that was really the first time that I started to kind of combine machine learning and artistic things together, really generating poems. I was using a Markov chain model at the time, which feels so ancient and small now compared to generative models today. But it was the first time that I was really grappling with what does it mean for a machine to uh, be a collaborator with a human in some sort of creative endeavor or artistic attempt. What does it mean for authorship when you have a machine that's generating lines of a poem? Um, and so a lot of the kind of fundamental questions that I deal with today, also in the creative space, still in the machine learning space, started at that point in time.
I was going to ask about that conflict, right? Because that was before ChatGPT, right? So, as someone who is into art and artistry, and now you're using it to generate poetry, you basically said, did you feel that internal conflict of like, is this really like, am I cheating here by generating poetry? Or is this something else I'm really supposed to do? Or did you feel that freedom of like, oh, this is just a new way to go ahead?
Yeah, it's a good question. Ba- and this was back in 2015, so well before ChatGPT. Um, what I really struggled with was when I read a poem, I get very excited and intrigued to understand the author and where the author is in their life experience and what they're dealing with at the time. I think adds a lot of color to a poem when I read it. And so when the machine that I was building was generating poetry, I was really it felt flat and I was kind of disappointed, right? Because there's no hand author, human author behind that gives that poem its life. And so in a way it felt lifeless to me. But on the flip side, I was really intrigued by the technology because I wanted to as somebody who felt like I wasn't a creative when I was younger, but then in adulthood found creativity and it brought so much like life and vibrancy and color to how I see the world and different perspectives. I liked that the tool was making creativity more accessible to a novice, or more accessible in terms of inspiring people, making them feel like they can at least get started from a creative practice as opposed to feeling like they need to be an expert out of the gate. And so I saw the flatness of it, but I also like appreciated how it could be used for inspiration and sparking creativity.
Very interesting perspective. I'm sure we'll probably explore that a little bit more as we dive in. But like when you talk about that was 2015. So speaking specifically to Getty, right? What was Getty's images AI strategy before the popularization of Gen AI, and then how has Getty pivoted since like 2021 and so forth?
So I would say that our Getty Images AI strategy has not changed a ton over the years. Our strategy has always been, how do we provide really great content to our customers who are doing a creative work. And I'm speaking to our strategy that's really on the creative side of our business. So for those that don't know, Getty Images has two sides: editorial, which is very news, sports focused, and then creative, which is very, like, might call it traditional stock photography, that's very campaign focused. So in the creative domain, we want to give our customers the best content possible and help them with their creativity, whether that is with camera shot imagery or AI generated imagery. And so years ago, we knew the AI image generation was coming. We just didn't know when. But that strategy remains the same of customers need really good content for whatever creative project they're working on. How do we provide that no matter the source, whether that's camera shot or synthetically generated? But the key is to provide that content in a way that really reduces the customer's risk. So our customers like are doing big campaigns. They want to minimize risk as much as possible. And so that strategy has remained the same. I would say what's changed over the past couple of years is just how that strategy has manifested. So like the specifics of it. So for example, we have decided to launch our own generative AI by Getty Images product, which generates text to image. Having our own modification functionality where someone can take a camera shot image and then modify it using generative tools. And then we've also elected to not allow uploads of generated images from other platforms to our library. And so those are the specifics that kind of manifest that strategy.
So I think you guys recently partnered with Hugging Face to provide a clean data set. So what is a clean data set? What makes it clean, and who's going to use this data set and how?
Yeah. So what makes it clean? So a clean data set is really a training data set that a model is trained on that can lead to a commercially safe or responsible model. And so a clean data set for us is really a data set that doesn't include any brands or products or intellectual property. Because if you train a model, if you have a training data set that has a bunch of running shoes with the Nike swoosh on it, and you train a model, that model is going to be able to generate Nike swoosh on a running shoe. And that's really concerning to the end users or end customers of this product. And so I mentioned like reducing risk for our customers. That's one of the ways that we really want to reduce risk for them, is making sure that they can't generate anything that's IP infringing. Second way that we have a clean data set is really making sure that there's no celebrities or known people or known likenesses. So there's no Taylor Swift in the training data set. There's no celebrities. There's no one you would recognize. And the people that are in the training data set, we have licenses for. They're called model releases. Which is basically a legal form that an individual signs saying, yes, you can use my picture with my face on it in the model training. And then the third way that it's clean is that all the images have licenses on them, which means that when there's a license, the creator can be compensated accordingly. So that Hugging Face data set is really a sample data set of our whole library. Other customers come to Getty Images and they'll license subsets of our library for machine learning AI model training purposes. And so the Hugging Face clean open data set is really a sample to give a flavor of the richness of the data, the high quality of it, and to get a sense of how clean it is.
Yeah, very interesting. You guys have taken kind of steps here to ensure like certain cleanness, so to speak, right? And I wanted to go back to something you mentioned before. It's like you opted to not allow AI generated images from other platforms, and then you're also making sure that there are no celebrities and people in that platform, right? I wonder, do you think that if we had that sort of like base of clean data set from the very beginning of generative AI, might we have avoided all these, problems that came up after the fact and various lawsuits and so forth?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think that if AI researchers and model developers had licensed all of their training data from the get-go, we would have to bypass all of these lawsuits.
Okay, so speaking of lawsuits, you guys sued Stability AI. I don't know where that is right now, but I want to focus more on your image generator of your own. And so, what's been the response to that, and how do you compensate? What's the system that you use to compensate artists with that image generator? And how do you determine whether it's fair compensation?
So we built our own image generator in partnership with NVIDIA. That image generator is trained on only our creative Getty Images library. There's around 200 million visuals in that library that we've trained that model on. And as I've described, that training data set's very clean. No Nike swooshes, no Taylor Swift, and then we have the licenses um, to the images, so we are able to compensate the photographers that led to that set of data. And so um, the the way that we're able to compensate those creators is to there's two parts of that equation. There's one which is everyone in the training data set gets a portion of revenue. So as our generative AI by Getty Images makes money, every dollar that we make, a portion of that dollar goes to those that contributed to the training data set. Half of that is based off of kind of a peanut butter spread where everybody gets the same equal amount. The other half of that compensation back to creators is proportional to how their content is doing in our camera shot portion of our library. And the reason being for that is um, the more unique imagery that we bring into the training data set, the more additive it is. If you have clouds already in your training data set and you bring in more clouds, that's not actually beneficial. But if you bring in new content that reflects people and reflects society and reflects updated clothing and reflects updated technology, laptops, iPhones, phones, um, that is better for the model, and that is also better for our traditional licensing business where we are licensing. People are searching for images shot from a camera and licensing those images, and so part of the compensation model is also based off of proportional to how that content is also performing in camera shot licensing.
I wanted to kind of gear into something that we started to speak about when you spoke about your 2015 version of generating poetry, right? And you also said that Getty kind of knew that generative AI is coming. Did you guys relate this to your artists, especially with like were they also expecting it? And then was there that fear of like, well, this could definitely change our jobs. This could lead to some loss of jobs or something like that.
Yeah, we are very close with our photographers and our contributors, and so these discussions happen all the time with that community of contributors, and we're a partnership with them in that. Um, I would say when the technology in this most current wave, the past 1 to 2 years, when image generation kind of took a step leap forward, in the industry, yeah, there was fear for sure. You could see a lot of articles about that. But I think that over time, as photographers and creatives have gotten their hand on the technology, they see it much more as a tool and a way to uh, realize a vision in their head. Like they still have to come up with an idea, to come up with a prompt, to write that prompt down. And it's really hard to come up with good prompts. We see that from our customers. We see that from our creative folks. We see that from our photographers. You have to come up with a concept or an idea that you think is going to resonate with an audience or evoke some emotion, and coming up with that idea is really hard. And then writing a prompt that can lead to the image that actually reflects that is really hard. We've actually found that it takes a lot more work, iterations, and effort to create an image from scratch with image generation than it is to find or search for an existing image. So I think that there's less fear around it replacing jobs, but rather how can this just be a tool that can enhance creativity, and kind of lead to that inspiration.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you mentioned how hard prompt writing is, because if you remember last year, or maybe it was early this year, there was this controversy of like some I guess piece of work of art that was submitted to like an art contest, and it was used with a image generator. It was used to generate images. So do you consider stuff like that art? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but like there was like just this like controversy around it. So knowing what you know now, do you think that that was the right thing for that artist to get the award, or is that a piece of art now that you know that, oh, this is really hard to get like that vision with the prompt writing?
Yeah, yeah. This type of thing has come up multiple times, so I'm not sure which one specifically you're referring to. But I think that if there is a lot of human effort and human work that goes into creating this output, then absolutely it's a work of art. It's a work of curation, it's a work of selection. You can generate so many things, but that just creates noise. What's actually the thing that is really powerful, and selecting that and choosing that? So there's that piece of it that's artistic. And then there's also the piece of it that's artistic is that you're going through many iterations, and there's so many tools out now with in painting and out painting, and with various control nets that allow you to use reference images or reference sketches to sculpt or create what you're getting out in the generated image, as opposed to just the text to the image. So I do think that there is a lot of iteration, a lot of kind of working with these tools at their disposal to get what to the vision that's in your head.
To hear the full audio podcast, please go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, TuneIn, Podbean, and other popular podcast platforms.